You're listening to the Kilcullen Diary podcasts, stories in sound from a village grown bigger. Good morning, I'm Brian Byrne. For our feature today, I'm delving back into a family interview I did during my RTE radio days, although it wasn't for broadcast at the time. In 1994, just prior to the opening of the Kilcullen bypass, I went and had a chat with my uncle Tommy Byrne, my father's younger brother. At the time, we were expecting Kilcullen traffic to go down to a local trickle, and I asked Tommy what the traffic on the roads in the village was like when he was a child. It turned out they were very quiet.
The best way I could describe it to you was we had seasons for different games. With certain season we got hoops. Well, the hoop actually was the rim of a bicycle wheel. And towards the evening, get those, and we'd race up and down the street, baiting them with a stick, race them on them. And they'd be hopping off the ground and hitting the footpath and going up in the bin. And that was one game we played in the streets. And then the spinning of the tops, which I heard recently. I remember an autumn evening, there could be 8 or 10 of us whipping tops down the street. Now the tar had arrived this time, because you couldn't spin a top if it wasn't smoothish. And going down the hill, you could call 8 or 10 of us, and who'd hit the best lash and keep it spinning, Oh, great competition, but I'd one up and I used to get me top, and that time we used to have powder paint. We sold to mix their own paints. And I'd go and get a little Prussian blue and put it around outside of a little bit of red. And my top would be spinning and have a beautiful rainbow colour off the top of it. I remember that. Why I said that is to give you an idea of the traffic that was on the road.
And what kind of traffic would there be?
Motor car came along, you'd be raging. Yeah. that was it, in a nutshell. Yeah. Like a motor car. And then we used to play football at the Convent gate. That was the goalpost. Particularly for Sunday morning, there could be 10 or 15 there. And now the ball was usually something like a tennis ball or something like that. Yeah. And we'd be shooting goals. There could be 10 or 20. Or the summer's evening, Yeah. That'll give it. And then if a car came, you'd be, where the hell is this going? Yeah. Or if it was going anywhere quick, you go up onto the footpath at Quinn's and look to see how fast it went up the hill. I could cut him where the dial shop is at the moment. We could see from there. Yeah. Oh God, that's a good car. Look how fast it's going up the hill.
Other than those very few cars, what kind of transport did most people use?
Pony and traps, Saturday was the big traffic day for shopping, and the majority of the customers come in a donkey and cart, and the husband driving and the woman beside him, and she wore usually black shawl and a black bonnet and a tie down here. The last time I remember was Mrs. Goulden in Ballysax, and I remember her well, and the bonnet tied underneath here. And because they used to bring in eggs into the town. Well, it was sort of a market of a Saturday, and an eggler, as we used to call him, Mac Conway, used to buy the eggs. He came from Kilcullen, and he used to set them out down in the square and count them onto some sort of a mat or a carpet and box them. Then I think he used to sell them on the Curragh or sell them to some dealer that went around. But he came every Saturday to buy the eggs. But it was mostly that. Now, the rings up at the school wall, and they'd be filled for the 3 Mass of a Sunday. Right. With a pony and strap or a donkey's cart tied to them.
Yeah. Well, now, would people have to be wealthy to have a pony and cart? Or was it essential like a car is today?
A donkey and cart, everybody had one in the country. If they had a half acre at all, an acre, a donkey and cart, that was the mode of transport. Now, even as a kid, like, bikes weren't too popular. Yes, they were coming, all right, but you had to be well off to own a bicycle, Mm. And the donkey and cart, there's the little flat one, the blue, done up, nice blue sides on it, and red wheels, always. If they were prosperous at all, they were painted. And the horse and carts were built the same way.
Mm. Where would they have been made? Were they made locally or were they made by
some? Made locally. Mm. There was Cuddies of Ballysax used to make Suncroft, Cuddies of Suncroft. You might remember it as a kind of a second-hand furniture place.
I do remember it. My mother used to bring me out there.
Well, that was a coach works, and they used to make pony and traps I don't think the pony carts were made there. I'd say they were probably made by handymen locally.
Yeah.
And there was another crowd where Stacey is in Brannickstown.
People would have one or two ponies, or
No, only the one as a rule, the one pony. He wouldn't. If you had a pony in trap, you also owned a couple of working horses.
Right.
You see, now if you didn't own a pony in trap, you wouldn't have a pony naturally, but you'd have something to do a bit of work for you.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And you could have a jinnet, or you could have a donkey or something. You know. They'd use the pony or the donkey if they were small to harrow in the garden.
But that'd be the kind of traffic then that you'd have in the town normally. Now, for long distance traffic, what was used? Were there coaches, or what was it? Or were there buses at that stage?
I remember the first bus coming. And I think it had been the first bus actually came to Kilcullen, and it used to start in Suncroft, Cutbush, and it was owned by Connors, up to the Curragh, crossed Kilcullen, and it used to stop at our hall door. That's Dowden's hall door now.
Yeah.
And pick up the passengers there and go on to Dublin. And there was a conductress on it with the name of Miss Ross. I remember well. She was always dressed to kill. And they let you off at the Royal Oak pub, which is near Kingsbridge there.
Oh yeah, right.
Across the river.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was the stop.
Well, that pub is still there, in fact.
Yeah.
It's beside the Ashling Hotel.
That was the stop. Connor's bus.
And that's just a short recollection from that tape of my conversation with my late uncle, Tommy Byrne, which I rediscovered in my office a little time ago. And on my early comment about traffic in Kilcullen being expected to slow to a trickle after the bypass, wow, how wrong were we? It seems a good idea to end with some of his recollections of cars, bicycles and trains through the 20s, 30s and 40s.
When I was a kid, we had a Ford van. That did a Saturday delivery. And sometimes we'd be brought along, when we came to Kinnahill, Hill, you'd have a cow to be, you had to wait on it to get up the hill. And maybe you had to give a push behind.
Yeah.
But we always had a car. And I think the first car my father had, the regulars, IRA stored it on them and set fire to it up at Moore Hill.
Why would they have done that?
Because my father was very anti-Deb. He was very pro Michael Collins. It was that during the Civil War.
I see, so they took it seriously.
Oh yeah. And my father had always, as a kid, he had a 45 revolver, and I knew where he had it. My mother had the trunk, and there was a lid on it, underneath the lid, and I still have the permit. Because of being a Redmondite, you see, he came down that way, and his father would have been on the real Fenians, down that way.
So he had a Ford van.
He had a Ford van.
For deliveries.
But he also had a car. But the funny thing about these Ford cars, they were terribly hard to start. And you had to swing them.
Yeah,
and you had to hold it a certain way, because now and again it had a fire before it went too far, and called a backfire. And it'd spin the handle around. You see? And if more arms broke, maybe your knee was in the way, it'd be broken. So I also remember that they had one method of making it easier to start. It appeared to me that they were kind of in gear all the time, But you jacked up the back wheel, you jacked up the bad wheel, and then
that should spin.
You never went the whole way around. You were asking for trouble.
Yeah.
It backfired.
Yeah, right.
And even then I remember tyres coming out. And studs in a boat, or the old-fashioned studs. Yeah. With 3 rows of those right around the tyre. This was a new idea, so you wouldn't get punctured. Yeah. That was all right, you hit a bit of frost.
Right. Yeah. There was no grip then?
No. You might as well have skates on it. Yeah.
Who looked after cars in those days? Were there mechanics, or did you do it yourselves?
Oh, Barber. Barber lived down there beside the bank. And he had a van, and he used to do the mail. Before that, there was a lad, he used to do the mail. He had a horse and cart, Johnny Shaughnessy. Then Barber came along. Yes, he had been working in Dutty Lards a bit high as a mechanic, and he started up in Kilcullen. He would do it, but there was a very simple engine. My father's favourite mechanic was a man opposite Fenton's Kilcullen. His name was Joe Millen.
Who else in Kilcullen would have had a car when you were growing up then?
Mick Feely had a car for hire, acting man, and he lived down, or he had his garage down there with the community have the little shop, just there. And they owned the valley as well, Feely's. He had a car. The doctor sometimes had a car. No, Dr. Barker, when I was a child, he had a pony and strap, he had no car. Conley came after him, he had a car now and again. Now who else would have? Old Tom Byrne, he always had a car. And that's the only one I can remember around.
And in general, were most cars Fords, or were there other
All
makes?
Fords.
All Fords.
My aunt Nora then got one later on. The other aunt used to call it the bacon box, and it was called a Road, an R-H-O-D-E.
Yeah, never heard of it.
No, nor I. Never heard of another one. And she used to drive that up to the golf links in the Curragh. But then we'd go out for a drive with son. The Pat Quinn used to bring us up Glen Cree and up the mountains. But we'd always had to get out of the car, going down the hill or going up the hill.
Because it wouldn't go up the hill, and it was only safe to go down.
The bloody brakes were brutal. You never knew when they had brakes on them, you know.
Yeah, and the engine wouldn't drag you up.
That's right, that's right.
I see.
Well, you had to get out. And then out of Punchestown, of course, as kids, we sat on the footpath with a sheet of paper and we counted the bicycles, the traps and the motor cars going to Punchestown. We all be there sitting half a dozen of us, we counted them as they went by. But we had it ruled out and everything. But the bicycle men like to be arriving, oh God, they'd be arriving about 9 o'clock, they'd be first.
This was only a one-day Punchestown, was it?
No, it was a 2-day meeting.
I see.
Tuesday, Wednesday. At the hideout, I often saw bicycles like to be lying on one on top of the other in a depth of 12 feet to the wall, under the windows.
Yeah.
All in, and they're having their sandwich.
So it was a big job to make the sandwiches for them?
Oh, sure, the night before, 2 nights before, there could be 6 in the kitchen. And my mother had an old-fashioned slicer. Oh, she'd have volunteers in, family in, and everything helping her. Yeah.
And how far would those people on the bicycles had come now for that day?
They come out in Castledermot and maybe further. They know what I mean. But I do know Castledermot. You could have another one maybe come from Castlecomer or something, but they might come by train. I remember going myself to Dublin by train. I was in the army and I was home for the weekend and I went up on the train to Dublin.
This would have been during the war?
Yeah, and I brought my bike with me. Because I'd have to cycle back Monday morning. From Sarston. Closed sometime after that. And then I remember going to the Eucharistic Congress. All the schoolboys went over for Saturday. We had our carriage or two on the train. That would have probably come from Tulla. You see, Tulla, Dunlavin. And
what year was that?
32.
My late Uncle Tommy Byrne, talking with me in 1984. Memories that otherwise would have died with him.